This unit is all about rendering and exporting your compositions from After Effects. So when you're done making something and you want to share your animations with the world, well, the last step is to render or export your compositions and generate the final video output files. When you hear the term rendering, it's very similar to exporting, but rendering is really just the process of compiling everything you did in After Effects and then generating a final output file. Exporting really just refers to taking something and exporting it into a specific file type. Like you might take a frame in After Effects and export it as a JPEG file. But rendering is when you're done and it's just going to compile all the compositions, effects, everything that you did, and then it's going to generate the output files. And the actual files that are generated, those are often referred to as rendered files or renders. In the first lesson of the unit, you are going to build an animation from start to finish. And that animation is going to serve as the example for future lessons when you learn different ways to render and export things from After Effects to the final video output files. Create a new composition. You can do so by just right-clicking in the project panel and choose New Composition. You can also click the icon at the bottom of the project panel to create a new composition. Or go to the top menu, Composition, New Composition, or use the keyboard shortcut Command or Ctrl N. Give your composition a name. I'm going to choose this first preset here, 1920 by 1080 pixels, 24 frames per second. For duration, I'm just going to put it to 8 seconds. So 8, for 8 seconds. Background color does not matter, and click OK. I'll start by adding the background paper texture. I'll come to the project panel. I'm going to select this crumpled packaging. I'll drag it right onto the composition window. I'm just going to hold the shift key just so I can drop it right in the center. You'll see it kind of snaps when it gets to the center, and I'll let go. Now the texture is a lot bigger than the composition, so I'm just going to right click, choose transform, and then select fit to comp. To animate this background texture, I'm going to use an effect called offset. So I'm going to select the crumpled paper texture, go to the effects and presets, and do a search for offset, OFFSET. You'll see it under the distort category. I'm just going to select it and drag it right onto the texture. Then I'm going to go to the effect controls panel. As you can see, this offset effect is very simple. There's just 2 properties. If I click on this little origin icon, I get these crosshairs where I can set the origin point. And I'll just drag this around just so you can see what is happening. It looks to be a seamless pattern, but if you look close, you can actually see seams, which is one of the downsides of using the offset effect. And if the seam is really bothering you, I'll show you a quick way that you can fix it in Photoshop. To export a frame as a Photoshop file, you can go to the top menu, go to Composition, Save Frame as Photoshop Layers. Give it a name, .psd file, choose where you want to save it, click Save. I'll open up the file in Photoshop. The first thing you do is check the image size. So go to the image menu and choose image size. What you're going to do is take the width and height and divide them by 2. A quick way to do that, if you just put divide by 2 in the resolution, that'll automatically divide both of them. So these numbers here are what we're going to use in the next step. Select the layer, go to the top menu, Filter, Other, Offset. This filter remembers the last settings you used, so that's why it's important that you check the image size first. So we can just put a / for the divide symbol, and then 2. I'll hit Tab, go to vertical, / 2. Photoshop does the math for you. Make sure you have wraparound selected, then click OK. Now I can see the seam down here. There are many healing tools in Photoshop, but I'm going to use the patch tool to fix the seams. I'll drag a selection around the seam. I'll drag up to sample an empty space, and like magic, the patch tool will fix the seam. So fix all the visible seams the first time, and then just keep rerunning the offset filter, just making sure that there are no visible seams. And once you're happy, so I'll go to File, Save As, and I'm just going to save it right over the original that I exported from After Effects. Click Save, Replace Yes. In After Effects, I'll double-click in the project panel, select the texture file, and then click Open. Merge layers is fine. I'll click OK. Here is how to replace or swap out footage from the project panel to the layers panel without losing any effects or changes that you've already made to the layer. So first, make sure the layer is selected. And then you're going to go to the project panel, hold the Option or Alt key, and just drag it right over the layer. Once you let go, it's going to swap out or replace the footage. Now you might be wondering, why is it smaller? Well, the Photoshop file is 1920 by 1080 pixels, but the original layer was a 4K file that we scaled down. So After Effects knew that we scaled it and did it exactly the same. So all we have to do is just reverse it by right-clicking, go to Transform, and say Fit to Comp. Now it's the correct size. If I go to Effect Controls, you can see the offset effect is on the new file, and now we have ourselves a seamless background texture to animate. To animate this, we're going to use two of my favorite expressions, so press Option or Alt, then click on the stopwatch next to the Shift Center to property. Go down to the timeline, and now we're going to type in the first expression, which is posterized time. And if you love stop motion and hand-drawn animations, posterized time is your best friend. It allows you to set the frame rate for any property. So lowercase p, O-S-T-E-R-I-Z-E, capital T, I-M-E, open and close brackets, then enter a number, which is the frames per second. The smaller the number, the choppier and more stop motion-y the animation will be. The higher the number, the smoother the animation. I'll enter 4, tap the right arrow, put a semicolon, then enter return to go to the next line where I'm going to add the wiggle expression. Lowercase w-I-G-G-L-E, open and close parentheses. I'm going to put a really big wiggle. So first I'll type in the number 50, comma, 1000, go outside the parentheses and put a semicolon to end the line of the expression. And when using posterized time with other expressions, you always want it on the top of the stack. Click away, tap the spacebar, just like that, we have a seamless animated crumpled paper texture background. And now I'm going to drag some footage from the project panel right onto the composition window. And if you want to resize, tap S for scale and just adjust the scale. For help with design and laying out the composition, click on the Grid and Guide Options icon below the comp window. I like using the Title Action Safe. It helps me find the center, and I can use the lines to guide me as I'm laying out and dragging out graphics. And just click on that icon again if you want to turn off the Title Action Safe grid. And to add some text, I'll click on T for the type tool in the top toolbar. I'm going to click and just type out Mike Murphy CO. I can click away, select the text layer, and then go to the Properties panel to format the text. So I can change the font, change the size, keep it center paragraph. I'll go to the Align panel to center it to the composition. I want it below the character, so I'll just drag it below the character layer. So I'll select the text layer. I'm going to add a drop shadow by going to the Layer menu, Layer Styles, Drop Shadows. And you can customize the drop shadow down in the Layers panel. To animate the text layer, I'm just going to use a preset. So drag the CTI to the beginning of the timeline, go to the Effects and Presets panel. I'll do a search for type. So there is the typewriter effect under Animate In, and I'll just drag it right on top of the text layer, tap the spacebar, and now we have ourselves a nice text animation. With the type layer selected, if you tap U, you can see the keyframes and you can adjust these as necessary. To reverse this animation, I can select the keyframes, press Command or Control C. I'll move forward in time. I'm going to paste them, Command or Control V. With the keyframe selected, I'll right click, go to Keyframe Assistant and choose Time Reverse Keyframes. And now the text animates on and animates off. And to add easy ease to these keyframes, I'm just going to click on the Start property that selects all the keyframes, and I'll tap F9 for easy ease. I'll animate the character on the Position property. I want it to end here and start over here. So what I'm going to do is drag the CTI to where I want the animation to end. I'll tap P for the Position property. I'm going to click on the stopwatch. I'll then drag the CTI to the beginning of the timeline. This is where I want the animation to start. I'm going to click and drag, and then I'm going to press the Shift key to keep it in a straight line. I'm just going to drag it off so it's no longer visible. Now when I tap the spacebar, and then just adjust the distance between the two keyframes to control the speed. I'll also select both keyframes, tap F9 to add easy ease, and to give it a realistic blur, I'll enable motion blur. So first, you need to enable motion blur for all the layers by clicking on the icon above the layers panel. Then all you need to do is just tick the box under the motion blur column for any layer that you want to add motion blur. And if you do not see this column, you just right-click Columns and make sure that Switches is checked. And if I drag the CTI slowly, you can see that motion blur really adds a nice touch. I'll animate this banner on the opacity. So I'll select the banner layer, tap T for opacity. I want it to end on 100%, so I'll move the CTI to where I want the animation to end. I'll click on the stopwatch for opacity at 100%. I'll move the CTI to the beginning and change the value from 100 down to 0. So now that banner is just going to fade on. And for this logo layer, I'm going to animate it on the position property. So with the layer selected, I'll tap P for position. I want it to end here, so I'm going to move the CTI to where I want the animation to end. I'll click on the stopwatch for position to add a keyframe. I'll move the CTI to the beginning of the timeline. I'll zoom out a little bit. I'm just going to click, drag up, hold the Shift key so it stays in a straight line. Tap the spacebar. Easy. I'll select those keyframes and tap F9 to easy ease them. I'm also going to enable motion blur on that logo layer. So I'll just tick the box since we already have it enabled. And now I can see motion blur. And if you want to adjust the timing of your animation, just select the layers, tap U to reveal keyframes. Then you just move the keyframes to get the timing the way you want it. So I want the character first, and then I want the banner to come on. So I'll just click on the banner keyframes and just move them down a little bit. So now the character comes on, the logo fades on. And maybe I want the logo to drop in at the top and just adjust them. And this is really just fine tuning. And I'm going to move the text down just a little bit so it doesn't start right away. Once you get the animation the way you like it, then you can work on stylizing or adding some finishing touches. A couple suggestions for some finishing stylized touches. Try changing the blend modes of your layers. So I'll select this logo layer. If you don't see the blend mode column, you can click on toggle switches and modes. Hold the Shift key and tap the plus or equal sign to cycle through the blend modes. Adding blend modes is a great way to blend in your layers to give it a more natural look. Another favorite effect of mine is called roughen edges. So if I go to the Effects and Presets panel, do a search for rough. There you'll find roughen edges under stylize. I'll drag it on this logo. And if you look at the edges, you'll see it gives it kind of a distorted, grungy look that I really like. If you want to add some distortion and add a little line boil or wiggle effect, a great effect that I love is called Turbulent Displace, TURB. There you'll find Turbulent Displace under Distort. Now when you first add it, it might look a little extreme. But again, you go to Effect Controls panel and just bring down the settings. And I like to animate the random seed, usually using expressions such as time or posterized time. But I can make it a lot easier on myself by using one of my favorite presets called Hand Drawn Effect, which has both Turbulent Displace and Roughen Edges, and the animation is built in. I'll drag the CTI to the beginning of the timeline, go to the Effects and Presets panel, do a search for Hand Drawn. I'll select the Hand Drawn effect and drag it right onto the logo layer. I'll tap the spacebar to preview, and just like that, I've got myself a roughen edges with a wiggly, jiggly animation. And if we go to Effect Controls, this is all of the effects that make up the Hand Drawn preset. There's the Turbulent Displace, it has wiggle, roughen edges, all my favorite, but the animation's already made up, super easy. And it's a little too strong right now, so I'll go to Effect Controls, and just adjust some of the settings. Change this to 15, change the speed down to 4, wiggle amount, I'll bring that down to 750, see what that does, tap the spacebar. Okay, I like that better. And if you're happy with the settings and you want to reuse that animation over and over again, well, you could copy and paste everything, or just select all the effects, go to the animation menu, and save this as your own animation preset that you can use in any project. Animation presets are saved in the User Presets folder. I have this hand drawn effect as a preset. I just drag it on, and now I've got wiggle on my character. To add stylization to everything in your composition, a great way to do that is by adding adjustment layers. To add an adjustment layer, you can right-click, go to New Adjustment Layer, or go to the top menu, Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and now any effect that you add to this adjustment layer is going to affect all of the layers below it. With the adjustment layer selected, I'll go to the Effects and Presets panel. I'm going to type in Noise. Under Noise and Grain, I'm just going to drag the noise onto the adjustment layer. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see the noise. As I increase the noise, by default you get this color noise, but I don't want that, so I'll uncheck Use Color Noise so it's monochrome. So I'll just change the amount. Let's try 6%. Next, I'll go to the Effects and Presets panel, do a search for Lumetri, and under the color correction, I'll select the Lumetri color effect and drag it onto the adjustment layer. There is a lot you can do with this effect, but I'm just going to add a simple vignette to darken the edges a little bit. Then I'm going to reduce the saturation to give it a little bit of a retro vintage look. So you know that you can tap the spacebar when you want to preview your animations. If you only want to play part of your timeline, maybe you just want to loop a little section as you're fine-tuning the animation, for that you set the work area. To do so, drag the CTI to where you want the work area to begin and tap the letter B. So B for begin. To set the ending, drag the CTI to where you want the work area to end and tap the letter N. So B for beginning, N for end, and now this little section which you can move down the timeline, this is called the work area. And you can trim the comp to the work area. So let's say that you just want to shorten your composition. You can make a selection using the work area and then trim it. But in most cases, you want to set a work area and just loop the playback over and over again as you make adjustments to your animation. And to release the work area, you can drag out the ends, but the easy way is simply double-click right in the middle of the work area, and then I'll go back to the full timeline. And to preview your composition full screen, just hover your cursor anywhere over the composition panel and tap the Grave key. That's in the top left corner below the Escape key on your keyboard. You can use the scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom in or zoom out, and tap the spacebar to temporarily get the hand tool so you can adjust the composition. Then just tap the spacebar to preview. So hopefully you had some fun in that last lesson, creating an animation from start to finish. In the next lesson, you're going to learn how to use the render queue, which is a panel built into After Effects to render or export compositions and files from After Effects to final output files or rendered files.